Hello, everyone. For our 28th episode, we're talking back to school. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ready Row USA as we continue regular broadcasts featuring the best of rowing news, gadgets, and gear from rowers, clubs, coaches, and vendors across the country. Ready Row USA is part of the International Rowing.Chat network. Subscribe at Rowing.Chat to receive notifications of upcoming shows. Send in your news tips, join our community on this website and on our YouTube channel. The producer of Ready Row USA is Charlotte Pierce. Associate producer is Tara Morgan of Seize the Oar and Vashon Island Rowing. Our senior correspondent is Mark Wilson of All-American Rowing Camps. And correspondents include Ryan Worth of UT Chattanooga Rowing and Alison Pollini of Carnegie Lake. And our executive producer is Rebecca Caroe of Rowing.Chat. Charlotte's behind the scenes today, selecting your questions and comments for discussion by our panelists, so keep them coming. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Tara.
How's everyone doing? Hi.
Great.
Good morning.
Awesome.
I'm sharing Ryan's microphone.
Yeah, so Charlotte, you traveled down from Boston to go take your kiddo to school, and you and Ryan get to broadcast together. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, here on the mighty Tennessee River.
Nice. Well, before we get started, we want to make sure that we talk about our sponsors, right? So today we are going to talk about how we need you to patronize our fabulous sponsors. And our first one is Oar-Inspired's GoPro mount. The clever engineers at Oar-Inspired make it easy for you to video your crew. Their brilliant design is a tripod with a suction cup that mounts onto the stern or bow deck of your boat. Links at our website. Do we have a slide?
Tara, do you want to put the visual on for the people that are watching?
Totally. I totally do.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. We love Oar-Inspired, so we're ready to go. All right. Why don't you talk about what we're going to talk about today, Mr. Mark?
All right. Well, we've got a couple other sponsors too. Rowing Faster is, or Faster Masters is, fastermastersrowing.com is a website-based app or service that allows you to get some feedback to your rowing, and you can check them out and obviously go to rowing.chat/sponsors to get the link for that. But what we're going to talk today about is back to school, and as all of the college teams and high school teams and junior teams are all getting ready to go back to school and following all their recruiting masterpieces, you know, all of that great stuff, getting new kids involved in the sport. Masters tend to not do a ton of recruiting this time of year, but it's a great time for masters to kind of be thinking about the change of seasons. And I think that's really what we're kind of talking about today. Masters Nationals was up in Grand Rapids a couple of weeks ago, and the start of head race season is quickly approaching. And so right now, this time of year is a great time to kind of transition from the sprint racing to the head racing. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with everyone.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of skills maybe that people picked up this summer, you know, getting the opportunity to race at Masters Nationals or going to a really fun Masters camp. You know, what are some of the camps that we see every summer that happen are Craftsbury, Calm Waters, Mark's All-American Rowing Camps, even ones where people are traveling overseas or doing the Rowing the World kind of stuff. And we wanted to just mention how great those camps are for masters to maybe get out of their comfort zone and get out of their boathouse and their coach. And like, what are some of the great reasons that folks, or what are some of the things you think folks are bringing home from those camps from this summer?
Well, anyone? I got one thing. It's bloody cold in Boston, so we need to come to Florida to do our camps in January.
Yeah, change of scenery, right? Some people go from freshwater to saltwater. They go, out of their comfort zone for sure.
And some of it might be changing boat class, depending on the camp for people. If they maybe row mostly in sweet boats at home, they get a chance to work in small boats at a camp.
Totally. I think that's like Craftsbury's kind of sweet spot, I think, because they just do so many singles, and those big masters clubs often do 8s, and 4s just to kind of consolidate effort, Mark?
I think the idea of getting out of your comfort zone is really key. I think having somebody else tell you as a rower what you're doing right and what you need to work on is really important. And then that gives you focus when you go back to home, or if you have a camp like what we do, we go to a lot of places all around the country. So when you are rowing in your own equipment and you get somebody else kind of helping you with the rigging, helping you with your technique, helping you with your focus, that's all really positive stuff. And adults are smart enough to figure that out, and then they can continue doing the things that we've been coaching them once the coaches leave or once the camp is over. So I think that's a big part of it, just getting new focus.
Yeah, I'm just showing some photos here of camps that happened this year.
That's right.
This is Mark.
Yeah.
This is one of your camps.
Yeah, these are several photos of camp. One of the pictures that I really like is back a couple. You have 4 or 5 athletes rowing in singles, and they're all rowing in the same. One more back, if you see it, there it is. There's 4 singles here in the picture. If you're not online watching this, you have 4 singles, all basically within a lane. So within a single lane, if you think about a race sprint lane, they're all going in the same direction. They are on a river. There are twists. There are turns while they're rowing here. And the whole idea of rowing a little closer together than maybe you would normally do, I think at camp is great. And then as we're talking about going into head racing, obviously that kind of work helps you become more proficient and less scared, quote unquote, scared, while you're doing the head race steering and so on, being closer to other people. So I think those are all things that we kind of focus on and look at and want people to work on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yesterday at Seize the Oar practice, I was the rabbit rowing a single against our double, and they had to keep turning and keep looking for me and making the turns, and they got the inside turn on the last one. I was like, dang it, they got the inside turn. It was awesome. I'm showing a picture now from Craftsbury. I'm sorry, I don't know what rowing club this is, but this is one of the big reasons I think people go to camp, not only for the community and the camaraderie, but they get video analysis usually at these camps. They get one-on-one, which in a big masters club, you've got 100 masters, they're often not getting that. So, Brian, do you use a lot of video analysis in your work?
Absolutely. And that's one of the points, though, where camps really shine, is because when you have to finish practice and everybody leaves, you're going to get a video link. It goes to YouTube, it goes to a cloud. You get to watch it, but you're kind of on your own for analysis. But being able to just engage in a discourse about what you're seeing, what looks good, what doesn't, is what really helps us create a mental picture that's more positive and leading us towards more effective rowing.
Right, exactly. Mark, you use it at your All-American rowing camps, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. Every session is videoed and every session is reviewed. And what we try to make sure is that we show people both the good and the not so good, and then obviously the corrections, or why didn't that stroke feel as good as the last one. And then what we're trying to do all the time is to educate the rowers that are at our camp so that they can become their own best coach. And I think that's one of the things too that is a focus at camps, is to try to make sure that the people become more they feel more, and so that they can respond to that feeling, and then they get the positive feedback. Yes, that was a good stroke. No, that one wasn't quite so good. And then they can start to help coach themselves and coach other people that maybe are not in a camp. So I think the whole idea of leaving a camp or a situation with a group, wherever the camp might be, the ladies there from Narragansett, they're going to be able to help each other after camp, and that's really important.
Yeah,
I just wanted to add that I've taken a few of Mark's camps, and especially the head of the Charles camp that he does in September. We did the video review right after the session that we had just been in, and it was very reinforcing.
Yeah, because you have to get a chance to feel what is right, like Mark said, feel the good strokes, and then go see what they look like, because it's about creating that mental picture of the stroke cycle. Yeah. And that's a really important thing to do as we're coming into head race season. These are the fundamentals for our sprint base, but it's also, the head race is about efficiency. if you're losing a little with every stroke, there's a whole lot more of them over the course of a head race.
And plus a little bit about strategy too. It's not a straight, linear project. It's like turning and power and stroke length and avoiding people and not crashing into people. And I think there's a lot of that's exciting for people. One thing I wanted to mention about camps was I always have people come home from camps and bring me the best nugget, the best little, just
right.
best thing ever. So Sarah Nevin is a coach in the Midwest, and she's a legend in Seattle, legend at the Mount Baker Boathouse. We have a boat named after her, but it's called the Baker Beast because she's a beast. And, the highest compliment of a woman in rowing is to be called a beast, right? She's just got nugget after nugget after nugget after nugget, or visual, or what are some of the best things you think people have taken home? Like what's your camp nugget that you would send home this year? Anybody?
Well, I use an analogy of a chicken nugget pretty regularly. When you get a chance to be at a camp and you get those glassy condition days, then you can really dial in handle height and height of the blade off the water in the recovery. And I like to think when you're on the square in the recovery, if you can have one chicken nugget laid flat between the bottom of your blade and the water, then that's a really good marker of a proper handle height for your recovery.
Wow.
I was rowing with Veronica Platzer, who is out at, I think she's in Boulder.
Yeah.
She was at CRI a few years ago, but she gave me the bungee cords to the belly button. That was my epiphany from V. Platzer. So thank you, V.
Yeah.
That it's a
for your sculler.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The chicken nugget works whether you're in a sweet boat or a sculling boat.
Right. True. Yes.
I'll remember that tomorrow. Mark, what about you? What's your best nugget this summer?
Oh my gosh, there's so many nuggets. There's so many nuggets. I think one of my best ones that I try to share with people is when people are trying to get too long or their stroke length, they're really trying to maximize the front end, maximizing that catch. It's better to take the catch at 3/4 slide the first time you're there than the second. And I'll let you think about that.
Dang!
I think you've told me that for the last several years.
I've told you that a few times, Charlotte. Yeah. I use that in an efficiency, standpoint. Sometimes what the point is sometimes we think we're getting more, but we're really getting less. And that's a nugget that I think a lot of people have heard from me and will probably bring home to their fellow rowers back home. So
great. Yeah, these are the kinds of things I think that camps, and what that does though is then it probably sells more camps, right? Eventually, because people come home and they're like, oh my God, so-and-so at Craftsbury or Calm Waters or Leslie from SteeringURight or whoever, Marlene, whatever, they had this thing. Oh my God, it was organic food and yoga and video, all those kinds of things. So I've noticed in a couple of boathouses,
we call it an epiphany.
Yeah, and I've noticed a couple of boathouses, like here's Willamette Rowing Club. They're going in these giant groups now. This is all one team, or here's Mount Baker. Going as a team is a really great way to bond and have fun.
And
we've been doing more and more of that down in DeLand over the winter. So we have a set schedule that is open. It's an open camp schedule that anybody can come to. And like you said, it's fun to meet new people. And oftentimes that is what camp is about, is meeting new people, going and seeing a new location. But other times, and more so, we're actually doing about 50-50 now, and maybe even a little over 50% of the private groups coming in to Florida in the winter and having their own private camp. And that's been really, really very beneficial to the rowers because they already know each other. And so from a rowing standpoint, it's really nice. And then they get to interact on a much deeper level than just, being at the boathouse for that 2 hours or whatever on every other day or whatever. So it's really nice to have groups come to camps as a group. And anybody out there, I'll put a little shameless plug in here, but anybody looking to do that in February or March or April down here in Florida, feel free to reach out.
Well, that's a great segue to the question that we have, which is how can I escape the dreary winter and get some vitamin D and rowing? And Florida sounds like a great option for folks because it's probably not too buggy. It's actually probably really nice.
It's nice.
The winter
Yeah.
months.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And
75 to 85.
Yeah. Pocock Rowing Center, part of the Pocock Foundation out here in Seattle, just started a partnership with the Nassau Rowing Club in Bahamas, and they're doing a camp in January with Nassau Rowing Club. I also know I talked to Leslie Wright from Chinook and her SteeringURight camp in Arizona before the Desert Sprints is happening again this year in March, I believe. And do you know, let's see, any other ones?
There's lots of other places that people can go, either as a group of their own or, setting things up. Obviously, San Diego, Southern California is beautiful all the time. So, that's a great place for people up on the West Coast that may want to escape the, that Seattle winter. Like you said, Tempe, Arizona is a great place. It can still be pretty hot, but it can also be kind of cold and rainy there. We've seen various weather conditions when we've done camps in Tempe. But that's another great place, very controlled atmosphere. And then parts of the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, Pensacola, Florida. Pensacola's building a new boathouse right now, and they're going to be advertising for folks to come down to Pensacola. And that from the Midwest is a little closer than far South Florida. So there's lots of options. Obviously, a little further north, you're going to play. You're going to take your little hit and miss maybe, but Elberton, Georgia is a great place where people like to go outside of Atlanta or outside of Gainesville, and then along the North Carolina coast, there's lots of rowing up in that direction too in the wintertime. So there's lots of places to go.
Absolutely. And I think that's somewhere where masters can take a note from the collegiate models, spring break trip. Mm-hmm. All the same places that your local college clubs are doing their annual spring break or winter break training. Those are places that would probably love to have some masters come down and do exactly the same model.
I would love to do a camp in Oak Ridge. I love Oak Ridge. It's my hometown, and I've talked to them a lot. I'm like, we need to do a sweep camp out here. It's such a great course, and you can do head racing on that river. Absolutely. I mean, it's just nice and windy, and I know I would love to have a reason and go see my mama.
Absolutely.
Is Tennessee all year round?
Yeah, Tennessee's year-round rowing,
okay.
Especially for big boats through the middle of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you go farther south, the whole state of Florida, like 12% of it's water. So all you need is a place to get a boat onto the water.
And out here, people love to go to Tempe Lake, like Mark said, with the Rio Salado Rowing Club, which is a really welcoming club. They do a lot of guest rows. Susan Francia from the national team likes to go down there and row in the winter when she's not doing her thing. She's been spotted on the lake. They said she looks like a giant heron in the single.
And I gotta say, another hidden gem is the state of Louisiana.
Oh,
also
really?
A great place for winter rowing. Also has some really beautiful rivers.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Shreveport has got some rowing there, and then right down in New Orleans, the Louis Armstrong Airport. You fly in and you land right next to the lake, and where Tulane rows is they've got like 12K of straight water. It's industrial, but it's year round, and it's flat water. What more do you want?
How about Texas?
State of Texas for sure.
Well, Texas Rowing Center and Austin Rowing Club for sure. Yeah, those guys are great. In Dallas, Barbara McKinnon at Dallas. Those guys are great.
In Houston on the Bayou. And I gotta say, as we're trying to talk a little bit about the college and high school back to school thing, reach out to the college clubs because like Rice University in Houston, they've got a modest little spot. I'm sure they'd love to host some masters from Minnesota or something like that if you just want to come south.
Yeah, I think usually those things, like here at the University of Washington, of course, it's a total lockdown, right? Like nobody from the outside gets into that boathouse. So, understanding that equipment and everything is really held dear by, alums but sometimes you can just use their dock. Like with the Bayada Regatta that just happened last weekend, I believe in Philadelphia, they used St. Joseph's boathouse ramp and then they launch from there. They don't actually use the boats that are inside. So there's kind of that idea too. Like, here's a great launch spot. Here's a great boathouse. We can use the bathrooms, we can use the locker rooms, but we can't use the boats. So
also, another thing to consider is there's always something for non-rowing spouses to do. I'm yet to convince my husband to go to rowing camp with me, but I know there's stuff in Florida for him to do. So there's an option.
Yeah, I just had a woman sign up for Minneapolis for one of our winter camps, and her question was, her husband is a golfer. I'm like, he wants to golf. It's like, oh, that's a no-brainer, right? There's only like 100 golf clubs within 40 miles of Florida. So he's coming, she's coming. They're going to have a great time in Florida together doing something completely different. And I think that's a great thing. There's always something else to do. So
hey, so I wanted to move on to collegiate really quick, because I know a lot of our listeners and a lot of our viewers, domestic animal issues.
And wait, have we introduced Ryan for the people who don't know?
Yeah, so let's do that. So Ryan, tell us who you are representing today. And then my question was, a lot of our listeners and viewers are parents, probably sending off their little 2K monster from their high school program into their first collegiate program. What advice would you have, or what's happening right now? Because I know a lot of kids are arriving at their schools or camps or something. Yeah. What's your take on, and tell us who you're with, and then a little bit about what's happening there.
Sure. Well, I'm the head coach at UT Chattanooga. So we're a co-ed club program here in Chattanooga. I'm also the coach's rep for the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association right now. And that is, behind the national championship of ACRA. It's the biggest college club regatta. Dadvale in Philly in the middle of May is a huge one. That's still, for a lot of colleges, their championship. And then you get into the varsity programs, depending on where the children might be going, of the women's NCAA or men's IRA programs. But club at the college level is going to look a lot like a hybrid of your master's and your high school programming. And all the stuff we keep talking about with masters camps and transitioning season to season, it rings true to the high school and college groups. There's just often a more set schedule and a more sensitive group. You do summer camps, right? You send your 13-year-old to their first rowing summer camp, and it's about instilling love in the sport. Where do a lot of masters clubs and sometimes college clubs lose people? It's transitioning them from the learn to row day into becoming competitive. And because you're then going to have to race people who have decades of rowing experience, and you're 6 months into the sport.
Yeah.
And so how do you keep those people? You just make sure they remember that it's about having fun. It's about being fit and enjoying the camaraderie and having fun. And so for the college clubs, I think, and the college teams in general, the fall that's very important. I think that's what most coaches are thinking about. It's how do we get good volume, quality strokes? How do we bring our new members in to the fold, make them feel part of our culture, and start to get used to the training and that lifestyle? And so kind of coming back, Tara, on your question about parents, what are their kids going to encounter? Be it a kid going to their first day of high school practice, or your child going off, maybe it's their first semester away from home and off with a college team. The ride home is on the first day is going to be one of the most formative moments in that whole experience. Because undoubtedly, your child or anybody you mentor is going to share that they don't like or are intimidated by or are afraid of certain aspects of this new sport. And if you say, well, it's okay, you can just quit, then they will, right? And they don't necessarily want an out. They're just trying to vent and get a little bit of support. So support them in the challenge. Don't say, of course, it's always going to be hard. That's not a constructive support. Say, I understand why you're afraid. Talk through that a little bit. And then even if you're a non-rowing parent, talk about what advantages you already know are going to come out of that challenge and that experience. Be it your eighth grader or your college freshman, either way.
Because they are future masters.
They are future masters. Absolutely. It is a lifelong sport. We see all these octogenarians racing at masters, nationals. You got people that are in the sport competing for 60 plus years. That is awesome. And,
it's a life sport. I mean, we say it's a life sport.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the other fun things that I love about the fall is that we've got high school, college, and masters rowers all racing on the same venues, intermixed with each other in the time.
Totally.
And you're getting to see, one of the best things for me in Chattanooga is that we have a community with a couple scholastic programs. we've got a community high school program, a master's program, and a college club. And it's really hard for a 19-year-old college student to ignore the fact that there are 50-year-old professionals training every single morning.
Yeah, and we have the same here in Seattle, of course, with just every possible kind of, even including Olympic people training for the Olympics, here. Mm-hmm. So you can see like that nice big mix of everything. Well, I know that I'm seeing on my Learn to Row page that I run on Facebook and on everybody's pages, they're recruiting right now. Hey, kid, come to the Portland Pilots rowing information meeting. Hey, kids on campus, come and try high school rowing. And I'm talking to parents and they're like, I don't know what my kid's going to do this summer or this fall, and and I told a guy yesterday, I said, rowing will save your child. Time management, get them exhausted, get them some friends, like all those things that we know are true. So if you have a child maybe going into a new school, that's a great way for them to get plugged in and feel part of something. So unfortunately, we need to wrap up. We want to push that next week we're going to be having a really fun conversation about our favorite things to have in our coach's toolbox, whether that's an object or a philosophy or all of the things that we bring in our variety of coaching. I coach Learn to Row for masters and para adaptive rowing. Mark coaches a lot of masters. Ryan coaches collegiate. So I think we're going to bring a really fun mix into that. And we're hoping that our new correspondent, Alison Pollini, will join us next week from Carnegie Lake in the East Coast. That would be great. So again, thanking our sponsors and making sure that we acknowledge our sponsors. And then our correspondent is Mark Wilson with All American Rowing Camps, and Charlotte Pierce with Pierce Press, looking for manuscripts, as she said in the past, for on coaching topics, etc. And Ryan Worth from UT Chattanooga. Next week, again, we're going to be talking about the Rowers Toolbox. And I just wanted to do a personal plug for my lifelong rowing project, seizetheoar.com, lifelong rowing. Basically, we're looking for stories about your perfect stroke, and it's intended for rowers over the age of 50. Doing this rowing and aging project, just bringing to the world the stories of people. Maybe you're starting at 50 and maybe you're 80 years old and you're starting, and we want to hear your story. So a little personal plug for that. And then here's some of the things that we're going to talk about coming up. We love talking about gadgets and gear. So make sure that you submit any news bits and gadgets and gear for us. And we're going to be trolling the internet looking for things like that. So be posting on your Facebook pages and we'll come follow you. So make sure that you subscribe and give us any feedback and send us any questions. Anything else? Any parting thoughts from folks?
Go row.
Great job, Tara. Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So one thing I just wanted to mention is after each show, we put up a website. And on that website are a lot of great links and a lot of great of the images that we've shared. So make sure you check out the post-show blog post at Rowing.Chat's website. All right. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.